Well, I am so excited today. I get to talk to my dear, dear friend that I've known ever since she was born. Honest to God, ever since she was born. And I'm admitting I'm an old person here. Um, we went to the same school. We're from the same area. And a few years back, Jayme decided it was time to go to Texas. And through this process, Jayme became a mindset and transformational coach. And one of the things that I noticed, we'll talk about this in just a little bit, but one of the things that I noticed when I was going through a lot of Jayme's information is she specializes in working with people that suffer from anxiety and depression. And man, did that hit home. That really, really hit home for me. And we're going to get into this just a little bit later, but I just want to tell you, and I hope everyone that's listening and watching remembers these words that I'm telling you about Jayme. I've known Jayme as a positive, outgoing, compassionate. She's a leader, always driven, always focused, resilient, and competitive. Now, Jayme, on the other hand, may tell you something a little bit different. But through that process, I think it's very important to understand that emotions can get raw. So today in this podcast, we might get raw. We might show some tears. And I just want to forewarn you that this is real. Everything that we do in this podcast, we do as organic as we possibly can. Jayme has no idea what questions I'm going to ask her. I have no idea where this is even going to go. But when we talk about mindset and the emotions, it can get really raw for people. And Jayme, I want you to tell people about you and what you do and how you got here.
Well, my goodness, first of all, I am so grateful that you reached out and asked me to be on this. And it's crazy just to take a trip down memory lane of how long we have known each other and just see how things come full circle. I think that you did a far more fantastic job of describing me than what I ever could. But yes, I'm a mindset transformation coach, certified life coach, and NLP practitioner. I love digging into people's brains and rewiring them. Helping them experience more fulfillment in their lives, right? I am not a therapist, so to say that I technically specialize in depression and anxiety, I obviously medically cannot say, but that is always an underlying thing that a lot of people experience. The way that I would describe myself, I am a lover of the 3 C's: Christ, CrossFit, and coffee. You will catch me doing all 3 of those every single day of the week. And I am an absolute just ball of energy all the time. Sunshine is my favorite nickname that I have that people give me. And yeah, I know that I'm a very blunt individual, but everything that I do comes from straight compassion of genuinely wanting people to have breakthrough from the hurts that they've experienced. And it's because I've experienced that. That's my own testimony, right? Like I know what it feels like to be that way. And so I believe that was the gift that God groomed in me, is to know how to be there for people in that realm, because I know exactly what it felt like. Like I'm not treating somebody like a textbook. It's like I've lived it. So yeah, that's how I would describe myself.
Mm-hmm. One thing, when I went onto your website, I love looking at testimonials. I love that. I just like to see what good people have to say about other people. And this one really, really just kind of like tug at the heartstrings a little bit. And it says, Jayme is amazing. She helped me so much. Even though I've done amazing things and accomplished quite a bit in my life, I struggled with imposter syndrome and not feeling deserving of good things in my life. Through our coaching sessions, I not only learned to organize my life better and to optimize how I run my business, but I also learned to be present, be happy with what's happening now, and to stop people pleasing so much. I'm truly grateful that I found her. And I loved that testimony because there was so much that just in those few sentences, there was so much power in that. She was struggling with imposter syndrome. how many times do you hear, with what you're doing, how many times do you hear people saying, like, I'm not deserving, I don't know enough, um, I'm not good enough to do this, so I'm going to put this off to the side. Like, how do you transform someone's feelings and emotions that they have to go into, like, no, no, that's a lie that your mind is telling you? What do you do?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely a process. One, first and foremost, the thing that I always say whenever I coach somebody is, you're not broken and it's not my job to fix you. Like, you need to be at a position where you're ready and willing to put the work in, and I'm going to dig into the trenches with you. A lot of what I always say, and a big identity of what I tend to work with, are people who use work as their drug of choice, or they are the strong friend, where it's like they stay busy volunteering and pouring into their family and taking care of everybody else but them. Because yes, part of that imposter syndrome is that nobody is there to do it for me, and I want it so bad, but at least if I help other people, that can make me feel good and I can stay busy and not focus on my dark thoughts. But whether it's the gym, whether it's work, whether it's volunteering, whether it's like serving everybody else and people pleasing around them, is that becomes the drug of choice, where I'm going to use that as my fix. And then I'll be happy when this happens. Well, then all of a sudden when gets here, and then you're not happy. And then you're like, okay, that didn't feel as good as what I thought it did, or it didn't last. And then now they're constantly chasing this next fix. But really what they're doing is they're avoiding the deep just traumas and doubts and all of that deep within their core. And if you never get a chance to identify it, you're never going to actually overcome it. And so what I have the privilege of doing is being alongside that individual and digging into that gunky shit, excuse my language, that they can't or won't face on their own, because that's exhausting. It's like think of the junk drawer. Good old Midwest, right? Everybody has the junk drawer. And you're like, oh man, I can barely get that thing open. I should probably go clean that. And then you open it up and you're like, oh, that's a mess. We're just going to close it and save it for another day. That's what people do emotionally. That's what people do with their limiting belief system. That's what people do with all of this negative thought process that has been instilled in them since they were little. And they're like, oh, let's just close the door. Let's just close it and pretend it's not there. And then all of a sudden, when they experience burnout, they're like, how did I get here? Oh yeah, it's because we didn't clean out the junk drawer. So that's what I help them feel.
Wow. Now, I just want to let the viewers know, if you've never watched Jayme, I've learned this by watching her. I have ADD. I'm not going to lie. So a lot of times, like, okay, what's going to go on? When Jayme starts using her hands like this, that's when the nuggets are coming. That is when you're going to know, like, hey, she's going to tell you something that is very, very, very good. And so I'm just giving a forewarning. So when you do that, from now on, people are going to know that's the nuggets.
I'm now going to be very cognizant of that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Don't, because I think it's amazing. You help the people that have ADD. I'm telling you.
Perfect.
So on that line, you talk about how you have to be aware of that drawer needs to open. What does it take in order for that shift to happen? Granted, I understand that a lot of it would be like they have to be willing, but how do you know as a coach when that person's ready to make that shift where, you're not doing the pushing towards them?
So I actually have a process before I let anybody work with me. It's complimentary anyways, but it's equally an interview, if you will, between myself and the potential client. And they're very much interviewing me as much as what I am them, because I always say, first and foremost, if you don't feel that you can trust me along this journey, don't work with me. I'm not going to manipulate you into wanting this and telling you why you need me. Like, you have to want to do this. But then it's also me getting a chance to see, like, if I believe that I'm a fit that they would be the type of person that I believe that I can help. So that would be step one. Step two, more times than not, it's very rare that somebody doesn't bawl their eyes out on an opening complimentary session, because I dig deep right away, because that's to me where all the magic happens anyways. And I will leave them with a call to action. So I won't even tell them yes or no on being able to move forward in my coaching program until they complete that call to action. And that's how I test them. because it's going to be something that's super heavy. And I will tell them, go do that. I might check in with you in a week, but if I don't hear from you, if you won't put in the work for free, you're not going to pay me to do it. So that's kind of my qualifying way of recognizing if somebody's ready or not. And like a lot of times I get the question, or like, well, people will assume that like they have to be at a completely broken state or they have to be completely burnt out to work with me. And I'm like, no, because like we train habits. We do things high level too, other than just dig into deep emotions and transform. We're changing every single day, right? Like I don't not go to the gym because I'm feeling like I'm out of shape. No, I stay in the gym because I want to stay in shape. And so I can coach people through that type of stuff too. But more times than not, and I have a background of selling life insurance, so I'm going to drop this reference because it's true. When is usually the day that people recognize they need life insurance? The day that it's too late, right? The day after somebody dies. So more times than not, that's also how I know people are ready, is because when they get sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, when they finally crash and burn and they literally just hit bottom and don't know where to go from there, that's usually when they're like, okay, I'm ready. Something needs to change because what I'm doing isn't working any longer.
That's really interesting. That's a great approach. I love that approach. So you kind of went into the process. Now, I want to let's go back a little bit, because I think it's really, really important for people to see and understand, like, you've been in that dirt, you've been in that gunk. And I pulled some information off of your blogs. I've read every single one of your blogs that you have. And this one that I'm going to be talking about, like, it hit me hard. It really hit me hard. And it's called The Journey of Redemption. And I won't read the whole thing because I think people they need to read it in order to get a full understanding. But I want to just give a few little snippets of what's in it, and then we can kind of talk about this, because there's a lot here. So in this, Jayme talks about, I grew up in an insanely toxic home. Fighting anger and alcohol were the driving forces. I must say, those actually groomed me for the way I am able to thrive in chaotic situations, because for me, the true anxiety and fear lied within the quiet moments. That was the calm before the storm. I can resonate with that. When I saw that, I'm like, I can understand that. My parents split when I was about 5 or 6 years old, so the chaos intensified while being tossed back and forth between the households in two totally different ways of upbringing. And then a little bit later down in the blog, you say, I experienced a lot of death at a young age. My grandpa passed away right before my parents got divorced. I missed school one day because a semi flipped over in front of our driveway and the driver was dead, pinned underneath it. In 8th grade, I was forced to see a therapist, diagnosed with depression, and became a science experiment where they tried about three or four different forms of antidepressants on me. I played as many sports as possible, anything that kept me away from home, and I was angry all of the time. Going down a little bit later, I latched onto a relationship where manipulation, emotional abuse, physical abuse, drugs, alcohol, and cheating ran the show. I would bend until I would break, and then somehow find a way to bend some more. I lost my mind. I became super crazy and just extremely poisoned by the toxicity I indulged in. I tried killing myself multiple times in multiple ways. Wow. Then one year, on New Year's Eve, it got even worse. I was laying on my bed and my mother was there with me. She was holding me so tightly. I was begging her to let me kill myself. I told her that I had no reason to be here, and that I just wanted to die. But I wouldn't do it unless she gave me permission. Down a little bit further, before I fast forward to the big news, I wanted to share with you, I want to connect some dots. God was always there. That moment, lying in bed with my mom, it wasn't just her and I in the room. God was there. So fast forward to now, I made a decision. I chose. I needed this for me. God helped me through so much. I am still standing here to help others through their dark times. God armored me. Despite all the imperfect decisions I made, He loved me anyway. You know, and I think that's what blew my mind. I've known you as the person, as the cheerleading coach. My goodness, what you did for that organization, taking the girls, for a national title. You were the outgoing person. You were coaching young adults and had parents. And I can remember seeing you, like, no one would have ever guessed that you had that deep, dark side in you that was crying out. When I was reading that, I had to pause. I really had to pause a few times, and I had to think back, like, oh my gosh, I remember that semi truck, and I remember that accident happening, but I never thought about what happened behind that. I never thought about the repercussions from that accident. I never thought about, the fact that your parents' divorce was a hard divorce. I know that. I mean, we saw that as a community, how hard that was. But I never looked at it as how it affected you and your sisters. I never, and so, like, there's a lot of emotion in that. And I really had to take a step back and, like, she is one brave girl. She is one brave lady. And to put yourself out there like that, I'm proud of you. I love you. I've always loved you. But it made me love you even more. And if you want to talk about it and explain a little bit, like, those feelings and how you can change from having those emotions and those feelings and being so dark, and how you can transform it, and how that took place, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite blogs. There's another one called The Unexpected Nightmare that's pretty heavy too. And it was actually just like 2 years ago, because I wrote it back in like 2016. And it was just about 2 years ago that I actually told my mom what The Unexpected Nightmare was actually about, because I leave it open to the reader. It was actually a blog that I wrote because I woke up from a bad nightmare, and I was afraid to go back to sleep because it was reliving something that had happened. And I'm glad that I left it open, because it helped a lot of people. But anyway, so back to this one, a couple things. It's crazy, because don't get me wrong, especially since God obviously is the focal point of that whole entire blog, is that I know that God did not plan for all of these unfortunate circumstances to happen. So let's just get that first, right? Is that, I don't share all of that from the space of like a pity party or like that it was because I wasn't involved with my faith or anything. No, because God is always working, but so is the enemy. And so what is cool though, is the way that God uses our brokenness. It's just a beautiful thing. And one of my favorite questions, like whenever anybody asks me, like if I regret anything in my life, I'm like, absolutely not. I'm like, because the amount of skin I have in the game, because I have a very diverse resume personally and professionally. Some bits and pieces you left out there is, yes, I tried ending my own life, but I lost friends to murder, suicide, overdose, car accidents, family members to cancer. I used to do hair on dead people. I used to be a facilitator for grieving kids due to death of a loved one. I used to work with special needs individuals. So like, any and every type of person, I've been around them. Almost any and every experience that someone could have, I've experienced. And not to say that puts me above anybody, but it allows me to be relatable. So that's another thing that I very much am so proud of, that God has taken me. He used those circumstances so now I can be a better blessing to anybody who could be impacted by me. And so I'm so grateful for all of the darkness that happened. And I guess the second thing that it was just cool, because of the fact that you knew me, you know, in that dark stage of my life. I remember it was for my 30th birthday, and I did a photo shoot, and I told a story with the photo shoot where I had this yellow backdrop in the background, and the first half of the photo shoot, I had black balloons. I was in a black hoodie that said "Darkness is a hell of a coach." And it represented that, like, I felt like absolute darkness was my entire life, right? But the yellow in the background, again, my nickname was always Sunshine. This bright light somehow was always coming from me. So that's why I had that in the background. And then so I had promised myself that closing out the chapter of all the way up to my 20s, then entering into my 30s, it was full on bright and shining, because I had broke free from all of that. I had stepped into everything that, like, my relationship with God to a whole nother level and everything. And so then I had colorful balloons, and I had on bright pink, and I had birthday cake and all this stuff. And it was, for me, a shift of season in that regard. But it just goes to show, again, the way that God protects us, even in situations when we feel like there is no way, right? Like him being in the room with my mom. Like I look back on that now, and my mom and I talk about it. I'm like, how in the world did I do that to my mother? But the fact that even my mom was like, I honestly don't know how I had the strength to do that. She goes, all I knew to do was to hold you so freaking tightly and tell you that I loved you. Mm-hmm. She's like, something just kept telling me to do that. I was like, that wasn't something. That was God. That was God. So no, I guess that it's the final thing I want to say regarding all of that is that, and this is, I have a quote for everything, so you guys will learn that about me quickly. But we can never escape adversity. Like, adversity is part of life. And so it's like what you choose to do with that adversity is what makes the difference. Like, I don't share my story, again, for people to feel this sense of pity, but I just also know that that's my testimony that can speak to those people who need that form of inspiration, that, like, holy shit, like, on paper or just out and about, like, she looks like she has it all together. That's my ideal person that I work with. The people who are financially successful and overworking and just loving and kind, and they're pouring their hearts out, but then they feel like none of that is deserving of them. So again, to the world, they have it all together, but they have nowhere to turn in those moments where they finally just break down. And that's what I know how to handle. And I'm so grateful, again, for everything that I went through, because now that's how I know I'm strong enough to handle it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that it was an amazing story, and it was hard. And, you know, I'm not gonna say that anything that you went through is not. I mean, I can't imagine, and it's your story. And you know, me being the empath, and I know that, you know, you have a little bit different personality, but with working with people, you almost have to have that, like, you know, that when people are looking for a mindset change, and if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, but when they're looking for that mindset change, it's dark for them. You know, it could be a dark place for them, and they're, like you said earlier, you know, you're just looking for that way to change that mindset because you don't like being like this anymore. Yeah. So with that process, and I'm not saying, you know, time frame, but what does that look like? Like, you know, for transformation for an individual, you know, with the processes that you have to do you work with them like on a weekly basis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, more times than not, it's, again, like when people are sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, what they've been doing isn't working. They finally have reached that point that they're like, okay, I can't do this on my own. I am always a huge advocate of this, that, like, you don't need a coach, but you deserve one. Like, you're going to figure it out. Like, I'm not that powerful. I am not that powerful to be able to take ownership of somebody else's life. That's not in my control, because still at the end of the day, I could pour my heart and soul into somebody. They have to be the one to put the work in, again, which is why I qualified. But you deserve the opportunity to have somebody who can hold you accountable and encourage you and give you, like, help you get out of your own way, because they're your blind spots, right? So that's kind of what my overall approach is. And sometimes our sessions mean that we, like, because half my business is men, and they bawl their eyes out on my calls all the time. And they're struggling with porn addiction, or they're struggling with alcohol usage, or literally they're making all this money and living a separate life from their family. Like, I've seen it all. Like, there's nothing at this point that would surprise me. But yeah, it's them being at a point where it's like, I need something, because clearly what I'm doing isn't working. So for me, I don't work with anybody for less than 12 weeks. You can't put braces on your teeth for 24 hours and expect your teeth to stay straight. If you have these underlying belief systems and these habits that have been instilled in you since you were little, that's not going to go away in a one-off session. So I meet with people regularly. The minimum, like I said, is for 12 weeks for an hour-long Zoom call. Even if they're right here in Texas, I do not meet with people in person. Reason being is because I record the sessions. Because I will have them look at the playback, and I'll be like, hey, Tara, I get this, and I hear you, and I'm empathizing with you, and I know where you're going with this, but the way you said it, all of a sudden you won't make eye contact with me. The tone of your voice shifted, or what you're saying, I don't think makes as much sense of what you're thinking. I want you to go back and see it for yourself. So part of that journey is the self-discovery too. So again, it's not me coming in and doing the work for somebody. I'm giving them a new way to see and understand themselves, so they can grow and find the habits and the thought processes that are best going to serve them moving forward. Because my goal, I want sustainability. I don't want somebody to be working with me and just feel awesome because they get this freaking hype energy every week. Yes, that's going to start that process. And it's amazing because people will be like, oh my gosh, I have so many Jayme-isms in my head right now. And you were the voice in the back of my brain when my thought went here. Like, I love that. But it's what happens long-term is what I'm more interested in. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I kind of went on like some side tangents there.
No, not at all. That does. So again, I know this might be difficult, because unless they're on social media and see everything that you do, because you're an open book. I mean, for the most part, you really are. You're on there talking about, hey, I'm at the gym, or I'm doing this or that. Is that part of the process when it comes to mind shift change? Is, the nutritional approach, the, physical fitness approach, does that have any play whatsoever, or have you noticed that?
Yes and no. And that's a great question, because I have a lot of people, because I love CrossFit so much and I post a lot about that, because to me, I want people to know who I am. I don't want to just I don't want to be a sales pitch to people. I want people to know and understand the type of person that they're working with. And I know you and I kind of chatted about this offline. I'm big on being a product of my own product. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to tell somebody that they need to work through hard shit, I better do it myself regularly, not just in my past, continuously now. If I'm going to tell somebody that if they want something, they need to be consistent and push through the hard to get there, I better be doing it. Fitness happens to be a big part of my life, but I don't map out meal plans. I don't map out workout plans. That's not my MO. Another scenario is a lot of people are like, oh, so are you a business coach? No. But to me, it all goes hand in hand, because how you live personally is also how you should be living professionally. If not, that's also part of the reason why you're burning out, is because you're wearing two totally different hats and you're being two totally different people. And that's exhausting, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's the side effect is that you're going to get motivated and you're going to want to start eating better. You're going to want to start going to the gym. We're going to start incorporating that into the goals that we set of, okay, how do we set up a plan on how many days you're going to go to the gym? How many workouts are you going to try to find what type of fitness you prefer best? What are maybe some ways, because actually I'll share this with you. This is something that's new that I'm slowly peeling back layers to in my authenticity journey. But I am somebody who has actually struggled with binge eating disorder, emotional eating, and disordered eating. So that is something that I've also had to work myself through. And there's a lot of emotions that go behind why somebody is now using food as their drug of choice, right? And so again, it's more of the mentality of like, why am I choosing to go to these vices to run from myself? So again, side effect is that, hey, I feel healthier. I'm now cutting out these bad habits. Hey, my business is growing because I'm more confident. So mine very much is I am training your brain and I am helping you discover who you are and everything that you want. The rest is the, like I said, the benefits, the icing on the cake.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that approach. So we talked a little bit about, your journey, what you've done. There's also a part, you have coachjayme.com as that's where you can get your information. But there's also Relentless Glory.
Yes.
Let's tell everybody what Relentless Glory is.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to share the backstory on this because this was such a God thing. So yeah, in the midst of my journey and that blog, The Journey of Redemption, I even talk about how I walk away from my faith. I joke and say I'm a recovering Catholic. And that was more about religion versus relationship. God was a rule, not this relationship to feel and experience love and be guided by and experience life with, right? And so after that all shifted and that became that is hands down, no matter what, the number one part of my life. If somebody is not a believer, that is, I don't care. I still love you. And that is not something that I will incorporate into my practice if you do not wish. But I will obviously not deny my God either. And so in that journey and full transparency, so I have lived alone for the last 10 years. I run my own coaching business. I haven't owned a couch or a TV for over 5.5 years. And I've been single this whole time, no kids, no nothing. So a lot of what I do is completely alone. I have amazing coaches that I invest in. I have amazing mentors. I have amazing friends, but still coming home to an empty home all the time gets very isolating. And so in that, which I again, full transparency, I was recognizing some mental health things that I had to work through. And holy cow, where am I going with this? What was your question?
Relentless Glory.
There we go. That's what it was. I was like, I know this is going to connect at some point. So yes, I got to a very, very dark point where I'm like, God, I don't understand. Like, I have been praying that if and when you want me to have a husband, you'll bring him into my life. And it wasn't happening. And I was like, okay, well, if that's the case, bring me a freaking business partner. Give me something. So I'm not just doing life alone and having to lead and then just feeling empty. Because again, workaholic, strong friend, takes one to know one. Why do you think I know how to coach those people? Because I've been that person.
Right.
I still continuously peel back layers to that person. And so I had met this woman when I was living in Connecticut. I met her through a Facebook group. She was also a coach. She was living in North Carolina at the time. I was on her podcast. Her and I both were like on a relationship and bringing ourselves back to God. And we stayed in contact. And we would always just support each other's stuff and like empower each other and comment on each other's posts for being coaches and whatnot. And then I moved to Texas and she randomly reached out and we caught up over a Zoom call. Then I didn't hear from her for like about a year or so. And then I was in this very dark place and I was like praying about it. I'm like, God, like bring me a business partner, bring me something. And it was January of 2022. And she reached back out. She's like, let's catch up. And all of a sudden I was like, before we do that, I'm like, this may sound super crazy. You can totally tell me no. I'm like, but God's putting it on my heart. Like, I want to do something. I was like, I'm already growing my coaching business. I don't want you to touch that. I don't want you to be a part of that. I was like, but I want to do something and I want it to be God-based. And for some reason, something is pulling in my heart that it's supposed to be you. Can we have a conversation? We jumped on a call and literally in 45 minutes, we had like our color schemes. We had our mission statement. We had our pillars. We had our name, our brand, what we wanted to stand for, all figured out, which is Relentless Glory and meaning relentlessly living for the glory of God. And what we wanted to be able to bring forth to social media is one, to give people a safe space in the modern world rather than entering a church, to be able to know and and love God, whether they've walked away from him or they've never had a relationship before. And what's really cool is that her and I have completely crazy diverse backgrounds, and a lot of trauma embedded in those, but they are all in different fashions. And so it's awesome because it's like now nobody can come to us and say that we're coming from a space of judgment, because the way she talks, the way she handles things, the way I do things, completely opposite. Again, the traumas we experienced, some were the same, but a lot of them completely different. Our religious backgrounds, completely different. And so we both are bold individuals, and that's what we wanted to do, is like, hey, we're relentless, right? Like, we love God, and occasionally we say shit, and that's okay. Like, you're not a bad human, and you're not less than to God because you are still imperfect. And so our mission with this is literally just to be that, to pour God into other people. And we just trust that how God is wanting to use this, he will use it. But just for now, we post on all platforms, and we pray over people. We bring up tough love conversations that people may not want to hear, and all the above. So yeah, that's Relentless Glory.
I love reading. I love getting on social and seeing that, and I look at it when I see it, I'm like, oh, there goes Jayme. There goes Jayme again. Like, oh, she got me. That one's right in the gut right there. And it's good nuggets. It really, really is. So I really do, anyone that's listening, anyone that's watching, please go on, get your nugget, because there is so much there that Jayme shares and her partner shares. And it makes you think. It really makes you think. And I think that's what I enjoy about it, because you can do this. Take a step back. Okay. I get it. I can understand. And I find it so amazing with how, knowing you and what you've done, and now seeing this transformation happen and how you coach people. I mean, you're a bold person. Moving to Texas all by yourself. Moving to Connecticut all by yourself. That's brave. That I look at that as bravery. I know some people will look at it, it's totally different, but the things that you share and the things that you do, I know, and I hope other people see it as well, is you're coming from a place of love. You're coming from a place of what it's like, and you don't want to see others go through it because you've suffered it. You've witnessed it, you've bore it. And I think that is so amazing how God worked. I mean, he's got his hands all over you to take your business from the experiences that you have. And I think that was eye-opening for me as well. It's to process everything that you've done. And I had to take a step back myself, and I looked at it like, okay, Tara, you've made some really bold moves here in this past year. You're going from being a chef of this is what the expectation was, to something that people are very unfamiliar, knowing that you've already had this background and this passion about. And it was all God. It was all God's timing. Because I can remember, I'm sitting and I'm praying, and God, this whole time, he's like, I put you through this for a reason. You did what you did to get you to where you are right now. Now use it. Go. And I can see that in you. I see that that's what happened with you. It was like God pushed you and said, all right, child, it's time. I'm putting this on your heart, and do it with love. And I love it. I love what you do. So just a couple more questions, I promise.
Okay.
What do you see next for you? Through coaching, what's your your biggest desire that you haven't accomplished yet?
Great question. So it's actually really funny because I am anti New Year's. For me, that drives me nuts. That's why it's actually my favorite time to coach, because here's the deal. If I want to change my life, I'm not going to wait till Monday. I'm not going to wait till the new year. I'm not going to wait till next week. I'm going to start now. If my house is on fire, I'm not going to wait till Monday to call the fire department. And so I don't like the hype that comes with New Year's, because everybody's motivated to do these goals and then they get overwhelmed because they bite off more than they can chew. And like now, especially since coming off of COVID, many of people aren't even starting off like feeling motivated at the new year because they're so burnt out and so discouraged and feeling defeated before they even start. So all of that to say, for me, I use New Year's as a chance to still like kind of reflect on the whole past year and then kind of set a game plan for the up and coming year. I personally am not somebody who sets 5-year goals or 10-year goals. Because when God tells me to move, he's going to tell me to move. And I want to be ready for that. Like, yes, I'm going to have a vision. Because it's funny, like what my initial goal was, even say, prior to turning 30, right? Because I feel like 30 is that monumental, that's when you're married, you have kids, you own a home, you have this 401k established and all of that. And I'm like, none of that happened by the time I was 30. And I was actually thrilled. Again, why I made such a big deal about that chapter being something different. But even growing past, years after that, is that like, I never would have been in Texas if I would have followed my plan. Because I signed a lease over the phone. I had never even been to Texas. I didn't know Austin was some thriving city that everybody was moving to. I did zero research. I literally went off pictures on a freaking website and I signed it over the phone and showed up 3 weeks later, just gave away everything that I hadn't fit in my car. Same with when I moved to Connecticut. I literally signed a lease 2 days before moving, gave away everything, did zero research, just showed up and moved in. So I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was such a stickler on like this set by set goals and expectations. So all of that to say, long story long, the biggest thing right now of where I'm at within my coaching business is I, at this point, still do not foresee myself ever pivoting to a group coaching aspect, because I even also know me. I don't like paying for coaching on a group level because I can sit back and I can let other people talk. Or I can now link their story to now justify my own, and nobody's getting to call me out on my own BS. Mm-hmm. So I very much thrive in a one-on-one setting, and I don't foresee myself changing from that. Next on the list is definitely to start doing a lot more speaking events. And then I would also like to get to a point where I have an actual coaching firm where nobody is going to replace Coach Jayme. I have my expertise of the type of people that I help in the area that I help. But I want to be able to build out other coaches that are independent, that have their expertise that they get to focus on and help people at their craft. So that would be another one. And then this is a big one for me too, as far as like a bucket list item, I guess I could call it. Still technically a goal. But I want to be able, I don't really care about, I'm on social media every single day. I've been posting since January 1st of 2017, every single freaking day on social media. So you need a quote, you need tough love, you need energy. You got plenty of posts to look to. But the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to build a huge platform where I can build a large influence. And what I then want to be able to do is I want to be able to pull in my special needs athletes and other just special needs individuals that I've come across. And I want to give them a chance to speak on my platform at speaking engagements. Because one phrase when I first started volunteering with special needs is the only disability is a bad attitude. And I used to be a Zumba instructor. I got one of my athletes, he had Downs. I got him certified to be a Zumba instructor, and he would co-teach with me. And I was like, I don't care if you're young, old, male, female, disabled, not disabled, your ass could take this class. And so I very much want that opportunity for them to be able to share their stories and for others to be inspired, but also for people to not be so afraid or treat them differently because of a disability that they have. So I want to do that. And then in the scheme of all of that, I want to open up a coffee shop, and I want all my baristas to be special needs individuals. And once a quarter, we get to do like a team bonding thing where we get to craft our own little like mixed coffee drinks, and then they get to name the special of the month or like, the week, whatever, with the drinks that they got to play around with and make. So those are my big visions as of right now.
That is amazing. I have one favor to ask you.
Okay. Yeah.
when you open up this coffee shop, with you being in Austin, you know, you can't leave Austin, but with you being in Austin, when Rachel Hollis shows up, please get an autograph.
You got it. It's actually funny you say that. I connected with a woman who used to be on her event team. So that could totally probably make that happen.
That'd be
Coffee
great.
shop or not. Yes.
That's so funny. Well, as we wrap up, I want people to know Jayme. I want people to know like the in of Jayme. So I just have a few questions that I thought, you know, maybe we can leave on a happy note. And because I know we kind of went deep, we kind of went raw. So I want to leave in a good place. So what is something that you like to do, like your favorite pastime that
CrossFit.
Austin?
No, CrossFit.
CrossFit.
That's why so many people think I'm a fitness coach, because I am obsessed with the CrossFit gym. I don't listen to my body very well sometimes because I don't like not going. I love CrossFit. CrossFit is my passion outside of
And that does
pouring
show.
into people. Yes, that is
That does
super
show.
evident.
Yeah, absolutely. What is something that you want your audience to know about you?
I guess just since it's top of mind, because I'm not going to not answer your question. That's just not my style.
That is not your style.
But I am going to steal the post that I made yesterday, because as a coach, and especially since COVID and everybody opening up a lot of virtual businesses, I feel like the term coach has now become as scuzzy feeling as like car salesman or insurance agent. And I believe that everybody still is doing it with the passion of wanting to be able to fund their family and also help lives. So I'm not robbing them of that. But I've actually invested thousands of dollars into some pretty poor coaches as well, because it's now a trend to lead with authenticity. And I think it's great, but it also sucks because a lot of people use that just as a sales pitch and they're really not being authentic, but they act like they are. And so I actually just made a post about that yesterday. And so I guess if I could have an opportunity to share something, although to me, I feel like I already do that very evidently anyways, but just to actually have it be known. My mission statement for my business is the same exact mission statement for my life. And it is to change, add value, and impact as many lives as humanly possible in whatever means possible, period. With that, I have 3 steps. Again, this is for my life and for my business. My first and foremost step one is to love first. I don't care who you are, what you do, where you come from, what season of life you're in, how good of an experience it is or a bad one. I will always love you first. No judgment. That is always step 1 with me and the mission in my life. Step 2 is connect. I'm not just going to sit here and blow smoke up your butt and act like I care about you. And not really. People are lacking connection. That is why we are experiencing an absolute epidemic in loneliness, is because even though we have more access to people than ever before, everybody is lonelier than ever before, which is another thing I help with. But
Absolutely.
It's also something that I experienced a lot in my life while pouring into so many people. So for me, not just knowing somebody, not just communicating with somebody, genuine connection. So 1, love first. 2, I will go for connection. If and only if it is something that seems beneficial for that person, that is when I will coach.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. I love that. I love that process. That's what makes it genuine. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Okay, last question.
Let's go.
And I can't wait to hear this one. Being that you're in Texas, what is your favorite food down there to eat? Because it's a different culture.
I am going to disappoint you on this so bad.
Oh.
I am not a foodie at all. I guess if I had to pick anything, because I still have eaten out occasionally, there is this pizza place, which I think they might have a location in Utah now too, but for sure it's in Austin. It's this Detroit style pizza called Via 313. Anytime somebody comes and visits me in Texas, I'm like, we're getting Via 313. End of discussion. So if you're in Austin, Texas, you need to check out Via 313 if you're a pizza fan.
I am so honored. It's been a privilege to talk to you today. I want you, just because you're so unique, your name is unique. I mean, even your name. I mean, that's Jayme Shiarla. You are an amazing person. I have to leave with that. Let people know how they can reach out to you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you. I think you are amazing. And again, it's just been so fun going down memory lane and getting a chance to connect like this and pour into whoever is listening. I hope you guys are able to just take something from this, because I know I still did. I'm always big on trying to find takeaways in all areas of life. And so this was a beautiful one and a beautiful way to start my morning. So thank you for that, Tara. How can people find me? I encourage you to cyber stalk me, right? I mean, not that anybody who wants to stalk somebody needs approval, but I'm giving you free reign to cyber stalk me. It is Jayme the Coach, and I'm the Jayme with no eyes. It's Jayme the Coach on Instagram. Jay Shiarla Coaching on Facebook is my business page. My website is coachjayme.com. I also have a podcast called Make Time for Your Mind with Coach Jayme, which is on Spotify, Google, Apple, and iHeartRadio. And I do have a couple episodes on YouTube as well. My whole entire intention on that podcast, I have 2 seasons out currently, about to start the 3rd. None of them are more than like 15 to 20 minutes long, but every single ounce of them is to challenge your perspective, because we are constantly being fed all this information, which is great, but nobody is taking the time to sit with the knowledge and do something with it. So that's what those podcasts are inspiring you to do, is to challenge your perspective by me maybe sharing something for you in a way that you've never heard before. So you can find me that way as well.
Beautiful. I love it. Yes, please. Anyone that's listening, I promise you, you are going to get some great nuggets from Jayme. She's very, very intentional in what she does, very good at it. Like I've said, I've known you forever, and every time I have had a chance to be with you and talk with you, I myself have learned something from you. I have taken this process of, how would Jayme handle this? What would Jayme do, or what would she say? And I'm not saying that in a bad way, because you just
I know
have
that's
it's a lot of
really high expectation for me to uphold.
No, not at all. I mean, it's great, because I look at you as you are a very positive person. Everybody needs that in their life. And so I look at it like, how would Jayme handle this in a positive way? So I love what you do. I wish you nothing but the best. My whole entire heart is for you and with you, even though you're so far away.
Right.
But I'm so glad that you took the time to be here with me today and share your story.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. And we so much appreciate you taking the time to be with Helping Me Journey. Your health matters to us.